So awareness has come now to the level that people are beginning to know. Let it not get to a level where you are affected, your friend is affected, your family member is affected before you start taking precaution. The thing is real. We are seeing it. The figures are rising. Over 3.6 million people over the world. The amount of dead, the number of dead people are also increasing by the day. So we need to continue to educate.
The need to imbibe general precautions that must be adopted by all to keep everyone safe cannot be overemphasized. While scientists comb the medical space for a cure, citizens have been enjoined to play their part in containing the spread. It's obvious that the task of kicking COVID-19 out of Nigeria is a collective responsibility. Remember, coronavirus doesn't move unless you move. So do the needful by adhering to all precautionary measures put in place by the relevant authorities. And on that note, we thank you for being part of 30 Minutes. I hope it was worth the while. Be smart by staying safe. See you next time. I'm Lydia Samson.
When music meets dance, love meets poetry, and stories meets drama. Your joy, laughter, smiles and giggles will be all that matter. Let's gather here. Showbuzz. Live life happy. In this time of despair,
President Buhari at virtual UN meeting, 6 debt cancellation for needy countries.
We have been proactive in implementing a number of strong measures, including fiscal, monetary, and structural policies.
Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirms 182 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the national total of infections to over 8,900.
Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 decries neglect of patients with other ailments in the country.
We are having more deaths from non-attendance to other diseases than COVID-19. This situation is made worse by the fact that federal tertiary institutions have been mentioned among those rejecting patients.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on 5 years of the Buhari administration.
All right, as the English poet Alexandra Pope would say, swift fly the years and rise the expected morning. This surely hits home today as President Muhammadu Buhari marks 5 years on the seat of power. Kingsley, it would appear that when one is beginning to appreciate beautiful moments, just like the swift bird, it tends to fly away.
That's right, Claire, there's no doubt about that. Times and seasons are transient in that they come and go. But regardless, the key essence of time and seasons is the value that is generated during those periods, and which can be measured, say, in terms of governance, by education, health, security, and economic indicators. So on the occasion of the 5th anniversary of the Buhari administration, it can still be evaluated using those benchmarks. And Claire, you still have a lot to say, I believe.
Indeed. So let's reminisce on the outset of this administration 5 years ago. It all began in 2015 with a chant of Cyberbat, which, as someone puts it, was a magical greeting that could elicit a friendly response from passers-by or even earn you a discount from petty traders, especially in different parts of the country, especially in markets. But since then, the Buhari administration has employed a variety of stiff measures encapsulated in the broom, which is, of course, the party's symbol of the governing All Progressive Congress, APC. And that's to effect a cleansing of the proverbial Ogren stable, which would appear to have been neglected by previous administrations.
Well, in the first tenure of 4 years, analysts tended to have benchmarked the administration's performance against the criteria of national security, anti-corruption, economy, in particular job creation, as well as social welfare, all of which form the core of the 2015 campaign message. Now, in each of these categories, especially in the area of security, the Buhari administration was scored high, as within 3 years, Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast had been beaten back or considerably degraded, and communities that were previously under their control recaptured. And most of the persons, including some of those in Chibok as well as Dapchi who had been captured, were rescued, and there arose an air of optimism with the hope of returning the others who were still in captivity.
Absolutely, Kingsley. But despite pockets of occasional attacks on sub-targets here and there, there is little doubt of improved security in the last 4 years, especially, again, in the northeast. But consider also the fight against corruption, and you would agree that the roll call of top political leaders and erstwhile government's henchers serving various jail terms is unprecedented.
Well, Claire, that's exactly so. And in addition, of course, to the billions of money in local and foreign currency recovered from former government officials, as well as the repatriation of the Abacha loot stashed abroad. And as you had earlier indicated, from health to education, agriculture, and infrastructural development, there's hardly any sector that has not been affected by the Buhari administration.
All right, and speaking about the electoral process, if the 2015 election was a coastal roller ride for the APC, the 2019 was more intense. But as in the previous election, the force of the president's personality held sway, and the APC retained its winning streak and, by extension, the winning team. So, it's precisely 1 year since the reenactment of that historic 2015 election victory. What is the reality of the APC's promise of sustaining growth and job creation? But as the saying goes, it may not yet be Huru. Not with the force and surge of coronavirus pandemic disrupting development indices and permutations, not only here in Nigeria, but across the globe. Hello, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria Today. It's live on the network service of the NTA. I am Claire Chikodinaka Adilabu Abdurazak.
One person, 4 names. All right, now, as Claire earlier indicated, the past 4 months have been quite challenging for national governments across the world, and of course, Nigeria inclusive, because COVID-19 has caused a steep decline in the economic fortunes of many, if not all, countries. And that shows exactly, on one hand, how vulnerable international supply chains could be. Many countries are now seeking unprecedented measures to respond to the transition to a new normal way of life. So our evaluation of President Buhari's 4 years plus 1 anniversary will also, of course, include how the government is responding to one of the major challenges that has arisen in the course of its administration. That's to say, COVID-19. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to also welcome you to the program.
Now, in just a moment, we will join Chimaobi Walter and Nigel for highlights of the morning news, which is, of course, an integral part of our program, Good Morning Nigeria. Business news comes up thereafter. Then much later in the program, Baya Tebe will join us for the newspaper review. And if we do catch up on time, we will take a look into the world of sports and trending foreign news. So, let's get started with the news. And here is Chimaobi Walter and Nigel. Chimaobi.
Hello, good morning, Kingsley and Claire, it's good to see you this morning. Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari Thursday said global solidarity was hope for humanity and called on developed countries and international financial institutions to cancel the debt of needy countries, especially in Africa, to enable them reverse the devastations of COVID-19 to the human race. President Buhari renewed the appeal for debt cancellation for African countries in a virtual meeting tagged high-level event on financing for development in the era of COVID-19 and beyond, convened by Canada, Jamaica, and the Secretary General of the United Nations.
The shocks are multiple, including the sharp decline in international oil prices, which has negatively impacted revenues and growth, worsen external and domestic positions, and further increase banking sector vulnerabilities, resulting in enormous human and economic toll on the country. We have been proactive in implementing a number of strong measures, including fiscal, monetary, and structural policies, and a multi-pronged response to the health crisis.
And the Nigerian government is making good its promise to ensure transparency in the expenditure of the $311 billion Abacha loot recently returned to Nigeria, as the Federal Ministry of Justice qualifies some civil society organizations to monitor spending of the money.
The government wants to be as transparent as nature can allow. The three governments agreed that there should be involvement of the civil society organization, because we believe that the civil society are also grassroots and they will be able to give independent assessments of what the money is actually used for.
We turn our attention now to the legislature, where the National Assembly has commenced the consideration of the Reversed Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2020 of 10.509 trillion naira, 85 billion lower than the already passed budget.
Reserves have declined to $35.9 billion in March 2020 from the high of $44.7 billion in April 2020.
Look at the budget in relationship with the realities we face on ground. That what is best to do is to show up the benchmark to say $27 per barrel.
The assumptions underlying the 2020 Appropriation Act are no longer sustainable.
And in the meantime, a steering committee headed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was today inaugurated to further drive the country's process towards the attainment of a national target of making Nigeria open defecation-free by 2025.
So we're embarking on this initiative at a most auspicious time as our nation confronts the COVID-19 pandemic. We recognize that expanding access to water, to sanitation and hygiene facilities is our most effective weapon against the scourge of infectious diseases.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 182 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, increasing the now total number of confirmed cases to 8,915 till date. Of the 182 new cases, 111 are in Lagos, 16 in the FCT, 10 in Akwa Ibom, 8 in Oyo, 6 in Kaduna and Delta, while I have 5 in Rivers, 4 in Ogun and Ebonyi. 3 are in the Kano, 2 in Plateau, Gombe and Kwara, and you have 1 in Kebbi, Bauchi and Borno State. Lagos State now has a total of 4,012 cases, followed by Kano with 936 cases, while the FCT has 519 cases confirmed. In total, there are 6,064 active cases, while 2,592 patients have been discharged, with 259 deaths recorded so far. And in the meantime, the refusal of health institutions to attend to patients with other ailments apart from COVID-19 is causing avoidable fatalities in the nation's health sector. Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, who disclosed this at the daily briefing, appealed to chief medical directors of hospitals to reverse what they called the disturbing trend.
Truth be told, we are having more deaths from non-attendance to other diseases than COVID-19. This situation is made worse by the fact that federal tertiary institutions have been mentioned among those rejecting patients for fear of COVID-19. This is not acceptable, and we are saddened by this development. The Minister of Health has reached out to all medical directors, directing them to continue providing regular medical services so that we do not end up with avoidable death.
In the meantime, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says aggressive and sustained media campaign has helped in bringing Nigerians to the understanding and reality of the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister said this was achieved through the robust creative messages being heard on radio, television, national dailies, as well as various social media platforms.
The jingles are also running on 40 radio stations across the country, with states like Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja having more than one radio station airing the jingles. In addition, we also have support from 40 community and campus radio stations across the country awaiting our jingles.
Lai Mohammed explained that the revised ease of lockdown protocol has equally been published in national dailies spread across the 6 geopolitical zones. All right, and those are the news highlights for now. And Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Claire just after the break. I'm Chimobi Walter. Naji, good morning.
Main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rest heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news, with Nigeria's economy expected to surmount both the IMF and World Bank economic contraction projection of about 3.4%. This is, of course, according to the governor of the central bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who stated this in Abuja. That story and more on business news.
The economic contraction projection of 3.4% by the IMF and World Bank for Nigeria was as a result of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy. However, Governor Central Bank of Nigeria Godwin Emefiele says this is not feasible, as the bank has put all measures in place to enable it put back the economy on track. One of these include the disbursement of over 93 billion naira stimulus package out of the estimated 1.3 trillion naira agri and manufacturing sector fund.
This consists of over 44 greenfield and brownfield projects. The bank has also approved 10.9 billion to 14,331 beneficiaries under the 50 billion naira targeted credit facility for households and small and medium enterprises, out of which 4.1 billion naira has been disbursed to 5,868 successful beneficiaries.
Meanwhile, the Minister Budget and National Planning, Clement Agba, says the development of a national plan has become imperative for proper planning, monitoring and evaluation of the country's growth in the short and long term. The minister stated this while recounting the achievements of the Buhari administration in the last 5 years.
The way it's going is to have at least the first medium term ready by the later part of this year. The macroeconomic modeling team and the growth diagnostic team are already working, because that's going to be the framework for developing the 2021 budget. Other technical working groups are working. We have about 7 clusters, and in these 7 clusters, there are 26 technical working groups. And we're bringing in a...
With business news, I'm Chimubi Walter Naji.
All right, coming to that time when we look at what is trending on the newspapers, and Baya Toyebe is right here in the studio, but that will be next.
Bayo is here with us already. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Claire.
Good morning, Bayo. Good to see you.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good to see you too.
All right, so very quickly, let's go to the window page of the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag, new chiefs for Edo and Ondo as police get new structure. New chiefs, that means new police commissioners for Edo and Ondo as police get new structure. That's on page 7 in greater detail. Interest rate down to 12.5% from 13.5%. MPC retains other rates. MPC being Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank. Details on page 44. Man City and Arsenal clash as Premiership returns. That's page 47. NCDC and Kogi tango over coronavirus cases. Details on page 6. And below the nameplate, we'll take one of the two headlines there. NDDC headquarters shot over director's death. That's page 6. Next story comes with a kicker. Federal government, many Nigerians dying of common ailments as hospitals reject patients for fear of COVID-19. NAFDAC and others get Madagascar's cure drug. And as usual, you have on the right side there 2 columns. That's the sidebar showing in numbers total global infections of COVID-19. Then unfortunately the fatality is now well over 360,000, while about 2.5 million persons have recovered. Worldwide, Nigeria's own figures are also there, over 8,900, unfortunately 259 fatalities. Active cases in the country as at date, 6,064. And the table is there, just as you used to have of a league table in soccer. But unfortunately, this is a global and national health crisis. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is there in the photograph, showing him participating at the United Nations high-level virtual event on financing for development in the COVID-19 era. He joined the conversation from the presidential villa in Abuja. And second lead story, right there on the front page, Buhari, Obasanjo, AFDB, that's African Development Bank Board, back additional. Federal government and ex-president fault U.S. plot to oust Nigeria. Governance and AGF, that's Attorney General of the Federation, to discuss Executive Order 10, page 5. NNPC plans $10 crude production cost. And for other headlines on the COVID-19, you have a number of riders there on the front page below the sidebar. School dormitories for use as isolation and treatment centers. Flights to resume in Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. Rivers cuts 2020 budget. Edo opens 300-bed isolation center. Niger extends lockdown by 2 weeks. 10% of infected are health workers. And Abia declares patient wanted.
All right, Kingsley, thank you. Let me also look at the Punch newspaper. Just to say that I think all the papers today are so bulky, and they all come with a number of congratulatory advertorials to state executives and all that, marking their first year anniversary. But the Punch leads with a story on the NCDC, and it says, NCDC cries out as rapid test kits black market rises. NCDC cries out as rapid test kits black market rises. Details for that on page 2. It comes with 2 riders. FG to use hotels, schools as quarantine and isolation centers. And the other one says center insists on 2 Kogi COVID-19 cases. That's, of course, the NCDC. And while the state faults test. And the picture story is, of course, a story developing on the foreign scene. Police clashing with protesters during the demonstration over the killing of an Afro-American by a policeman right there. Trending stories at the bottom. Benue has capacity to manage COVID-19 successfully, autumn. Gunmen kidnap Can chairman in Nasarawa. Details of that on page 8. And 18 groups jostle to monitor $311 million Abacha loot spending. Details of that on page 9. Also, just beneath that, NDDC Shorts Office orders isolation as director dies of COVID-19. Page 9 there. Katsina begins construction of 700 122-bed isolation centers on page 7, while Bello extends Niger lockdown by 2 weeks on page 52. And let me take you a little above the nameplate. CBN forecasts slower growth, reduces lending rate to 12.5%. Read up that on page 38. Buhari writes National Assembly seeks $5.5 billion fresh loan. You can also read it up on page 8. FG Obasanjo fought U.S. over additional fresh probe. And finally, President orders military crackdown as Sokoto bandits kill 70. Bayo.
Well, let's start with the aspect of today. Today is the first anniversary of the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari, and it is the 5th year of the administration. The presidency says change has been wrought in nearly all phases of the nation's life. Presidential spokesman Femi Adesina says that the 3 areas of security, reviving the economy, job creation, especially for youth, and fighting corruption are the main targets. And he says the administration has fared better. Where Nigeria is today cannot be compared to where Nigeria used to be. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity provided a 66-page 5-year fact sheet. In summary, he says security over 5 years, the battle has been taken to the insurgents and criminals are being extinguished by the day. They are very close to being extirpation. The economy, he says, is long dependent on monopetroleum, is gradually being diversified, and the focus has been on agriculture, manufacturing, and solid minerals, and it is going a long way by contributing to the larger chunk of the gross domestic product. Also, on the issue of food security, he says the nation is very close to securing food security. On war against corruption, he says, no quarter asked and none given. He says, commit the crime and then you do the term, and it is no retreat, no surrender as far as the war is concerned. There has been concerns about some COVID-19 reports. Kogi State government says that his patients reported at the Federal Medical Center, Lokoja, and based on clinical symptoms, physicians at the hospital, at the National Hospital Abuja, suspected COVID-19. They asked for tests, and the test came out positive. And Kogi State has been informed, and the National Center for Disease Control says that it's now incumbent on the epidemiologists there to do contact tracing. But Kogi State government says, no, they reject that result. And Fanwu, who is the Commissioner for Information, says patients reported at the Federal Medical Center, Lokoja, they were not given any clinical treatment. The next thing they heard was that they have been taken to Abuja and they came with results. And therefore, Kogi State says they reject that results in entirety. The Presidential Task Force has expressed concern over hospitals rejecting patients. This is, the Presidential Task Force says, is causing more incidents of death along with the COVID-19. You will recall that the chairman of the Presidential Force, and who is the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, had about 2 weeks ago emphasized the same thing, that hospitals must continue to admit other patients for other ailments. The Minister of Health also emphasized this. The concern now is that the reverse is the case. Meanwhile, the Director General for the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Chikwe Ihekwazu, has cited the danger in kits that is known as antibody tests, which he says could not give a valid COVID-19 results. So there is danger in using substandard test kits because they will not give valid results, and it could further endanger all the war against COVID-19. Of recent, I noticed Zamfara State showcase what they describe as a no-contact testing kit. A man stands behind the screen, he brings out his 2 hands in the gloves, then the patient comes and holds a swab before him, and he breathes onto the swab held by the man, and they use that as a test. I don't know how effective that is, but that was an innovation that protects the tester from the suspected patient. But the danger is that, like highlighted, there are achieved variants of the test kits which the NCDC is saying tests are not reliable.
You know, the issue of the rapid test kits that are in the market, and I'm wondering, like you said, the Kogi State government is, claiming some kind of, is denying the test, given the result given by the NCDC, and they claim that they have a rapid test, kits that, they rely on. And the question will be, did they pass through the normal process, or is a test kit that Kogi State is using, is it also part of the ones the NCDC is, almost querying?
In fact, Kogi State says they have a test kit which within 30 minutes could produce results.
Yes.
And they have established 3 test centers in Lokoja premises where people could be tested.
Yes.
But these 2 patients in question were not tested in Kogi. They went to the Federal Medical Center, and from maybe the clinical diagnosis, they were referred to the National Hospital. At the National Hospital, they were tested, and after about 24 hours, the result came positive. But Kogi is now saying they are disputing the results. Well, the question is, we all need to err on the side of caution. There is a danger of COVID-19, and so the best approach for Kogi now is to assume that there is a possibility of cases there, and they should continue intensive testing. We'll be very happy if at the end of the day there's no case. But we have to be very careful so that we can assume that a state that is bordered by 10 other states, nearly all the 10 states, with the exception of Cross River State, have had cases, cannot continue to live in denial.
Well, I don't know how far Kogi will go in denying the status that has emerged from the testing of this individual. Now, are they also saying that since they are rejecting the result of the test, whoever is caring for that person now should also reject the person so that the person returns to Kogi, since the Kogi State government is saying that they reject the result of the test? That's one. Yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, we had the acting Secretary for Health and Human Services in the Federal Capital Territory. Of course, he's also involved in this. Part of the question we asked him was what the FCT was doing in terms of care treatment for persons, not just in the FCT, but in contiguous states in the event of any positive results emanating. Now, he gave us a background to precisely what happened, and that's consistent with the story narrated by the NCDC at the PTF briefing yesterday. So, but the challenge that now faces the Kogi State government is to say, look, the gentleman who has tested positive and is already undergoing treatment in the FCT had a number of contacts while he was in Kogi. So the responsibility is that of the Kogi State government to embark on contact tracing of those other persons, so that since Kogi has 3 test centers that gives them a rapid result. I think they also said they had an app one time, that the app, I don't know what magic the app normally would perform, but they said, look, go ahead with the contact tracing of these persons who were in touch with, shall we now say, the index case in Kogi, so that when there are symptoms manifesting in these persons, you take them in for testing and then for treatment, rather than allowing the figures to balloon and then continue to engage in denial.
Yesterday, I think the Commissioner for Information was on one of our sister stations, and he did say, Kingsley, just to add value to your contribution, that there were 13 contact persons, that had been identified, and that those people had been tested, and their tests came out negative. So it was on the basis of that, that the Commissioner of Information was querying, the validity of the one that was done in Abuja. That if the 13 persons who, were presumed to have been in contact with this in this first case, tested negative. So, I mean...
Yeah, at what time did they do that? You're told that the incubation period for this is usually between 2 and 14 days.
14 days.
So at what time did they undertake this? I mean, once you contact trace and you say, okay, fine, you were in touch with so and so persons, those who have manifest symptoms, of course, you immediately test them. And those who do not have manifest symptoms, you ask them to self-isolate. And then you watch them over a 2-week period. Have they exhausted a 2-week period? I think it's part of the desperation to deny that is leading to all of these claims and counterclaims.
We can say
the first thing is just to observe the protocol.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And maybe, Bayo, you want to also quickly speak to the issue of additional fresh probe. And of course, the Punch has it here. And, FG Obasanjo fought US over additional fresh probe. We just have less than 60 seconds.
We discussed that, I think, 2 days ago. Okay. The situation is that the United States, which also has some share on the African Development Bank, has raised fresh issues after 2 issues raised had been cleared. And so what they are now saying is that it's very unnecessary, the issues that United States is raising. But be that as it may, the president of the African Development Bank says he's available and ready for the scrutiny because he has nothing to hide.
Okay, all right. Bayo, just before we let you go, we will say congratulations to those who are marking their anniversaries in office today. Of course, that includes President Buhari, first year, as you said, of his second term, and a number of state governors. And for some newspapers, I think it's bonanza, because throughout the COVID-19 period, we have seen them come down to their leanest, being 32 pages. We had never seen that for many years. Today you have a number of congratulations.
How many pages do you have there for the nation?
Well, quite a number. They actually have supplementary pages inside, but of course, which makes the numbering different. So it's quite a bonanza. I'm sure those who don't get the adverts today, they will be telling the advert department what happened.
So the papers are already coming out of the COVID-19 lockdown.
Well, yeah, this is some relief. This is some relief. If you like some palliative for them. Bayo Achebe, thank you for being around.
Thank you too.
We hope you enjoy your weekend and see you on Monday.
Right, Bayo, see you on Monday.
See you next week.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the 5th anniversary of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects 2 persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the 2 persons have affected 4, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Shegun. Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they hear Abi?
Na beggy. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no.
This COVID-19 is not a child's play.
If we want to elect a new secretary, we fit to
do one for WhatsApp, or for Skype, or even on Zoom. Or we just wait.
I will not negotiate
this social distancing. It is non-negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
There is a lot of fake news news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of Africa's largest television network, the Nigerian Television Authority. Our conversation this morning is on the 5th anniversary of the Buhari administration. And to set the tone for that, let's take this background up by our correspondent, Abdul Salam Jibrin.
On May 29, 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari took another oath of office for the second time after being re-elected in the 2019 presidential election. Today is exactly a year of the president's second term in office and 5 years of his administration, which has recorded great strides as well as consolidating on the achievement of his first tenure next level agenda. However, it has not been without challenges. While appreciable gains have been made in security, economy, and the war against corruption, the three cardinal objectives of the administration, other sectors are also witnessing visible achievements and change. In the agricultural sector, for instance, the Buhari administration is leading the country to food security and self-sufficiency in rice and other grains, saving the country billions in foreign exchange. The transportation sector, many will agree, is flooded with lots of visible progress. The Abuja-Kaduna Railway has been up and running. The Abuja Light Rail has been facilitating movement to the airport. The Lagos-Ibadan Railway has also been completed with passengers already taking test rides and other routes soon to come on board. As a people-oriented government, the administration established the National Social Investment Programs, NSIP, to tackle poverty and hunger across the country. So far, the NSIP has become the largest and most ambitious social safety net program in the history of Nigeria, with over 12 million direct beneficiaries. On the anti-corruption war, the administration has instituted several fiscal reforms towards plugging leakages, such as the whistleblower policy, the Treasury Single Account (TSA), the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information (IPPIS) expansion coverage, amongst others. This has brought about a considerable level of sanity in the public sector and the fight against corruption. Also, synergy with the international crime agencies have resulted in notable gains in the anti-corruption fight, evident in the recovery of the Abacha loot and investigations of fugitives from Nigeria finding refuge in foreign countries. Towards delivering on the administration's mandate and ensure proper service delivery, President Buhari in August last year announced the creation of 5 new ministries, namely the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Police Affairs, Special Duties, Aviation, and Power. Since 2015, the economy has been witnessing appreciable rejuvenation. However, like other economies around the world, the current coronavirus pandemic has adversely affected the Nigerian economy. While the war against insurgency has been lauded by Nigerians both home and abroad, as well as the international community, a major challenge the administration says it is facing is in the area of resettling displaced people. How can the Buhari administration further consolidate on the gains made in its first term in office, and how can the challenges be surmounted towards ensuring better service delivery to Nigerians? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers shortly.
All right, let's begin our performance evaluation of the 4 years plus 1 anniversary of the Buhari administration. Let me quickly introduce the Honorable Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Chibuikamecho, who is already here with us, and who also turned 55 on May 27th. Congratulations, double congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right. And also here with us is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, a very familiar face. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Claire.
All right, Kingsley.
All right. We also have one of our regular analysts, of course, who's been missing during the period of the lockdown, Dr. Abdul Rahman Abu Hamisu, who's a public affairs analyst. Dr. Hamisu, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, so let's begin with the Honorable Minister of Transportation. Honorable Minister, you were there at the dawn of the Buhari administration. 5 years on, how is it going?
Well, it's not been easy. It's not been easy. It's been challenging. Basically because, when the Buhari administration came to be, it wasn't El Dorado from beginning. There was just no resources to do what we wanted to do. Basically, everybody can just actually do projects. Anybody will know we need transportation, we need infrastructure, we need water, we need health facilities, we need to be able to enrich people. Everybody has that idea. But the problem is, how do you generate the resources? So when oil price was high, the resources were available. I continue to remember that the first meeting, the first budget, we had to present to the National Assembly. I was part of that meeting. And we had done the benchmark of $45 per barrel and prepared the budget for onward transmission to the National Assembly. The next day, we came for a meeting for just to do further editing, and the oil price had crashed to $28 per barrel. How do you adjust from 45 to 28? It means that you go back to all the ministries, you come back, everything. For me, I just went back to my house. I said, sorry, the accountants and the economists should do this. But see, from that $28 per barrel, a gradual rise that never exceeded more than $70 per barrel. It's challenging both to the federal government and to the state government. So you can see that I'm not part of those who criticize even the state governors. Not because I don't believe that there are failures, but I also believe that they don't have the kind of resources that were there when we were governors for them to be able to govern. I will concede to those who criticize them that they can prioritize, especially on essential responsibilities like education, agriculture, those things that can create employment, knowledge economy, and another economy that can generate employment to put wealth in the hands of the people. Therefore, we came. That was the greatest challenge that we had to face. That's the challenge. Don't forget our economy ran into recession. That's what. So the challenge was, and that's when I realized that the policy adopted by government then was the best. Put money in the economy. Just continue to construct so that people will have money to be able to go for retail activities. That will create employment, that will rebuild the economy. And we came out of this. Don't forget that the World Bank had said that it would take us 3 years. We came out under 1 year or so. And nobody applauded us. But like the typical red-necked lizard that said that he fell from a Iroko tree, looked left, nobody was applauding him, looked right, he applauded himself, said, I have tried. Well, it's not easy to fall from a Iroko tree. So it wasn't easy. Then we've been trudging on, making sure that we don't go back to a recession. And then we woke up one day, and there was COVID. So what do? Everybody's looking for COVID to kill. Unfortunately, it's a war that they can't go with guns. It's not a Boko Haram war. That's where we are in terms of the economy, in terms of what we've met and how we have been able to confront it.
Okay, Honorable Minister, I'd like for us to do a bit of evaluation using what some have called standard templates. We'll look at across the sectors. We'll look at the data in terms of, project execution, in terms of completion and all that. Let's do an overview just before we come to your own, jurisdiction, which is of course transport. This administration rode on the mantra of change. Do you see change permeating in all sectors?
If I told you here that we don't have resources, You can't ask the question whether all. Do you know when they say all sectors? It even means that the NTA will rehabilitate NTA in such a standard that it will be able to compete with CNN and all that. No, unlike other. Okay, well, let me not be comparing. Let me focus on our government. The president did not say I'll do 7 things. He said, "Look, I'll focus on food security. We will no longer import food, man." In fact, I like the elementary thing that we looked at it. When I say elementary, it's like rural agriculture. For Christ's sake, we're feeding ourselves at home. People go to the farm and come back. So what kind of food do we import? What's the population of people that imported those kind of foods? People are just getting away with our dollars. If it's your private dollar, go and buy whatever you want to buy in the UK or wherever you want to buy it. Why can't we feed ourselves? Why can't we plant rice here? In fact, like I tell you, but I'm surprised that the North is supplying us rice, when indeed rice will grow in a swampy area like the South. You get the point? So the oil economy had turned everybody to be lazy. Anybody you meet, even the young girls going up, my boyfriend is in JAND. JAND, they mean is London or America. So even boyfriend itself has to be internationalized. Local boyfriends were not permitted. Now, when the president came, he localized that. Look, we can plant rice.
Localize the boyfriend?
No, I'm not talking about. I mean the pride of saying the rice I eat is Uncle Ben's. No, you can eat rice made in Kebbi. It's the same rice, for Christ's sake. So plant it. So when the dollars were no longer there, you see, there was one thing I learned in primary or secondary school that I've never given up. That necessity is the mother of invention. As soon as that dollar stopped flowing, didn't we go back to this? Nigerian rich men hated to go to agriculture. Everybody, in fact, anybody speaks tonight say, "Oh boy, no business again. It's only agric." You will see what happened in agric now. President would not do to this. COVID also has its own advantage. The only problem with COVID is that it spreads too rapidly.
Now that you've talked on agriculture, so let's take agriculture.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm already dealing with that. There's an
agriculture.
improvement in rice. Nigerians eat, what is the staple food in Nigeria? Rice and gari. That's it. I grew up eating gari. That's why I have what they call acid reflux. Because from year one, I've been eating gari till even I'm a minister. So those are we are the highest producers of cassava. That's the product by which you make gari, right? So do you import gari? So why can't you plant rice? Why can't you plant beans? And those are things that are ongoing. That's why, don't forget, under Yaradua, there was a 200 billion naira fund that was set aside, CACs, as loan. Minimum of 5%, maximum of 9%. Nigerians were not interested in going to take that 200 billion naira loan, unless you want to give them for free of charge. Why? They made it responsible for every bank to guarantee that loan. So if you want to take that loan, you must have a guarantee, collateral that will back up what loan you're doing. Now, Nigerians will go for that loan. So if you see in agriculture, whether you like it or not, importation has reduced drastically. It was when I went to IMO meeting that I realized that we import meat. That's when I was told by the Minister of Agriculture that we hardly have up to 1 million to 1.5 million cows in Nigeria. So we actually import meat from Bulgaria. That's what the guy, Minister for Transport from Bulgaria told me. So when I go, what did I tell them that they import from us? Nothing. By the time we came, we're importing even this thing from Ghana. Granite. All those things that we can produce from Kano. What kind of a country are we? So that's why the president, people will say he's unpopular. Because what the economy was dependent on was what we call the rent culture. So you meet Minister Amechi in his office. Good morning, Minister. So you go in and say, how are you? DFA, give me $10,000. DFA gives you $10,000. I give to Kingsley. Kingsley, Amechi.
You have never given me.
Kingsley will say, Amechi is a very good man. He's a very good man. He's very generous. Generosity dependent on the federal resources that belongs to everybody. It's called Commonwealth. Now Kingsley goes home. My wife, $5,000. My mother, $2,000. My father, $3,000. Then some used to pay school fees. And if Kingsley is an expert at that, he goes to 2-3 ministers because he's in NTA, so he can get $30,000 in a day. Then he starts. Okay, Kingsley, I guess you're married, so you may not be doing girlfriend. But if he's a single man, he gives to a girl who is his girlfriend, and that is the economy. So that's how economy was growing, and that's how it was running. And then the President Buhari comes in and says, okay, let me see that minister that will give her that money. So when you go to Minister Amechi now, you go, Kingsley, are you going? Kingsley is very unhappy. Right? So both Buhari and Amechi are very unpopular for not being able to distribute what our economy used to do before. I have my friends who are economists. They say it's elementary analysis. I said, okay, please tell me the professional analysis. If there was anything different from what I was saying, then tomorrow you will say, oh, can I interview you? Everybody says, I want you to interview you because when they finish, he's a very good man. The same thing to the plane. As you're coming down for the plane, people are lining up. Oh, yeah, you just bless them. Not your money. If it's your money, very well. But our commonwealth that all of us should distribute by ourselves, not you distributing it alone. Then a president comes and says, okay. And I said it when we were taking over. I said, if we go on with this, all of us will leave government being unpopular. Because when I go home now to my village, nobody gathers. Because they know that if you gather for nothing. But before, you wouldn't even tell your protocol officer to give them money. He knows what to do. Then you see fight. People are struggling and fighting. Now it is about a productive economy. It's an economy that says, go to the bank, borrow money. I agree that the interest rate should be low. Go borrow money, fund the agriculture, fund the industrialization, and all that, so that we can generate employment. There's no secret about the Chinese economy. Oh, China is the world industrial this thing. It's simply because, what does China do? China creates industry for cars, right? So China employs you, pay you salary, you buy the car, right? Or you take the money to sew clothes. There's also a company, an industry that makes clothes. When they buy clothes, they pay salary. The man who is paid salary for producing clothes or for being in the factory is able to buy television. The man who produces television, that's all. So you come to an economy where none of those things, all of those things are imported. So we are just a consuming nation. Right? So agriculture has moved. It may not be at the pace we want. We should be at the pace by which we will export so that we can generate foreign exchange. But you can't generate that for now because you have nearly 200 million persons. Let me join Nigerians who don't know the actual figure. We all say about this figure. So nearly 200 million persons. So and I'll give you an example as a former governor. We went into the farming of banana in Port Harcourt with a Mexican company, even though they've been chased away, the banana stems, everything scattered and destroyed by people. No, even Songhai Farm too is gone. Where we're training farmers. Songhai Farm is gone. This one was just an investment of about 6 billion naira. We had to contribute, or 7 billion, we had to contribute 3 billion. The Mexican company was to contribute 4 billion. Manage it, employ our people, and then sell. When the man started harvesting, he said, no, I won't sell. The plan was export. He said, I want to export. I said, why? He said, outside is $1 per watt, whatever. Here is $3. And they all consume everything here. So why am I exporting? You get the point? We have the market. The problem with the market is the weak market. It doesn't have a buying power. People used to respect us before because of our population. People want to come and do business here because of our population. Unfortunately, two things have come to play. We are not organized. So when it comes to law and order, people go to Ghana to establish and come to sell in Nigeria. Unfortunately, even if you go to Ghana and establish and come to Nigeria, the buying power is no longer there. So Nigerians can't afford to buy. We're not as strong. Nobody respects us again because we don't have that wealth we used to have.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much. I mean, you're also talking about effective demand. Well, we're going to have to pause here because this is a very interesting conversation, the perspective you're taking it from. Let's bring in Malam Garba Shehu. Malam Garba Shehu, like the Honorable Minister, you've also had long-standing experience at the villa, the presidency, as it were. Now, the Buhari administration was elected 5 years ago on the very strong winds of the promise of change. So 5 years later, what has changed and what is changing?
Well, the minister didn't like the word, she didn't want the generalization Claire was alluding to, but so many things have changed in the country. Many things are no longer the same, including the business environment the minister has just described now, no longer business as usual. The focus is no longer on self, but on society. The president chose a few things to focus upon. When you look at corruption, if you ask me, the biggest gain is not in the recovery of the Abacha dollars. It's in the sanitation of the moral environment in the country. There's a sense that it is wrong to engage in corruption. Before this time, even rhetorically, people didn't disapprove it. It was normative. So things have changed in that regard. And in so many agriculture, he's spoken so extensively about agriculture. This is a country that spent $5 million every morning from the CBN to import rice that we ate. Now, look at what has happened. We have been quarantined as a nation. All nations have quarantined. They have closed their borders. You can, even if you wish to buy rice from abroad now, you go to India now. India has banned the export of rice. So many countries, because they don't know the full implications of COVID until it unfolds. So they don't want to empty their warehouses with export. So even if you wish to buy, but we're not hungry for rice in this country. Yes, the costs may have varied, arising from maybe exploitation of man by man, which is common here. However, the sense you have is that the rice millers who have invested more than $1 billion manufacturing in the country, they are saying that they have rice that would take them to the next harvest season. So jobs will continue in that sector, and rice availability is here. More than 90% of rice that we need is in the country. Well, maybe have some preferences, Uncle Ben's, and they are able to source their money to buy. That's their own business. So there's a lot that is so changing. Look at the massive infrastructure going, investment in the area of infrastructure. And Governor Amici is one of the pillars of the administration in that regard, overseeing this enormous development that is taking place in the rail sector and the ships and the harbors that have been, changed and remodeled and improved in terms of ease of doing businesses. So there's a lot going on. The airports are changing, long delayed infrastructure projects, the East-West project, the second Niger Bridge, for instance, had been on the national planning map since the First Republic. Every government had given a commitment. They said they will do. They hadn't done it. We're almost there now.
Let me ask you. It's very because you are the president's spokesperson. What is the president's mindset as at today in terms of governance, in terms of achievement of some of those campaign promises?
The president wants to be remembered for having passed through this place. He has a sense of history. The president doesn't want to leave office without leaving landmarks for which he will be remembered. And for which he has chosen very few things to focus upon. We've mentioned them all the time. And you can see that he's putting in everything into those elements.
Does he feel fulfilled as 5 years have gone?
Well, does he feel 100%? I'm not sure anybody will feel 100% fulfilled. But the president is satisfied that the resources, reduced as they are being pushed into areas that the nation needs the most. And this is, look, this country cannot achieve national development. We cannot grow our economy without major investments in infrastructure. And we've got to have them: power, roads, the rail lines, and the airports, and all of these things that are going on. So revenues have gone down enormously. The governor has spoken about all of that. However, the thing is, when you are managing your resources wisely, you are still able to achieve a lot more.
Okay.
That would have been the case.
Just to add that this is, I think, the first part of our conversation on the 5 years anniversary of Mr. President. Of course, we will be taking this conversation in depth as from next week. But let me bring in Dr. Hamisu here with us. Dr. Hamisu, in 2015, the APC government ruled on the mantra of change, and of course, in the last election, the focus was on sustainable growth and job creation. Now, between change and sustainable growth and job creation, what do you think have been the biggest gains of this administration?
Well, thank you very much for that very particular, wonderful but complex question. To begin with, change is an interplay between the status quo and the new order that is envisaged in all that it takes to get to that very particular destination. And the first time in the office of Mr. President was highly eventful because there were a lot of challenges on ground, and I concede to the fact that the resources were not there. And any economy that cannot generate the resources it needed to power the kind of development it wants to see is handicapped from the very beginning. And I'm sure that was what happened with the first coming of Mr. President. And in governance, it's always a fight between what the people want, the vision of the government, and the resources that are available. Another factor, again, is what we've been referring to as corruption. Corruption usually takes resources out of where it is needed most. And when you have a country that is used to a certain system of governance that generates little and take more out of the system for personal use, then there is a challenge. Because no matter the resources that are available, you will not be able to achieve anything. And that is why when Mr. President came on board and he said, first and first, anti-corruption, we lauded him for that. Because if governance is about combining resources and people to get a result, and these persons delight themselves by taking these resources, no matter how visionary you are, there will be a problem. The only component that I've seen that I realize Mr. President and his team have not taken seriously is continued reform. What do I mean by that? If you look at the revenue-generating agencies, by the time Mr. President came, those agencies were performing below expectation. And he got reformers to man some of these agencies. For instance, customs. The man there was never part of the system, but he went there with a mindset. And the mindset is to change the way things are done there. And we all alluded to the fact that things change in customs considerably. We have a host of agencies like that. We have ministries that have performed very well in this administration. Because of what? There are visionary people there that want to see Nigeria taken to the next level. And that brings us to the issue of the next level agenda. The next level agenda is supposed to be a period of consolidation about what has been achieved, lessons that have been learned. How can they improve the system so that services to the people will be enhanced? And we're into that before COVID came. So I want to use COVID to underline some of the silent achievement of the government. One is the fact that, as my older brother Garba Shehu said, the world has been grounded, the wheel of free trade has been grounded, ports are closed, airports are closed. So what this tells us is that everything about governance is local. So it's either you are sustaining yourself as a nation today or you perish. And part of the report that was released showed that Nigeria grew, the economy, grew at a certain rate despite COVID, which means that the focus and direction and redirection by Mr. President that, look, we must enhance our capacity locally so that we are self-sufficient and then we are able to interact globally is the right way to go, though it is not really appealing to vested interest. And these vested interests are the source of our discomfort in this country. Their role within the corridors of power is simple. Influence policies that will add more money to their own money. And year in, year out, they declare massive turnover. How does that impact the lives of the people is immaterial. And that is why when Mr. President said, we must go back to the basis, what was the basis? Agriculture. Now, if you are able to make food available to the common man, you are able to make transportation cheap, affordable healthcare, education. People are not asking for too much. All they're asking for are just basic needs. So if
let me just we're having a discussion so that people will understand where we're coming from, where we are, and what the gaps are. When the first 3 years of this administration, we applauded the achievements in terms of security. In fact, I was one of those that went to Maiduguri to report live, to show what, the peace that had returned, to that part of the country. You know what Maiduguri used to be. So in terms of security, we made significant progress. Have we gained traction within this past 5 years? In terms of anti-corruption, another area that the Buhari administration was given thumbs up. I'd just like you to give us, the mileage we have added since, the past 5 years.
Well, in terms of security, well, security is always evolving. As you plan to tackle insecurity, those that are into the insecurity business also plan their own strategy. So it keeps on evolving. But the great thing is their commitment towards ensuring that there is security in the land. I would say yes. In terms of a lot of things that have happened, first is equipping and arming the security agencies. I think in the recent past, no government has invested heavily in arming our security personnel, ensuring that their capability has been enhanced to cope. Using technology, using arms and ammunition, as well as building capacity of these agencies. We are living witnesses to some of the transformation that has taken place. For instance, in NAFs, most of the grounded aircraft are refurbished and they are deployed today. Most of the needed capacity that we cannot afford locally are procured outside the country. But we're looking forward to a situation whereby we can be able to produce most of these things that we need. But currently, this is the only option we have. Thirdly, in terms of deployment of security, the most challenging insecurity we are facing in this country has to do with the use of technology to commit havoc. Now, the police has been able to re-strategize, and today we have a unit that is dedicated to tracking insecurity using technology, especially the mobile phone, the cyberspace, and the rest, because the sophistication that social media has brought into insecurity is such that somebody could remain in Afghanistan and plan an attack in Nigeria in the Northeast. Now, if you look at the war on terrorism, that is the fighting Boko Haram insurgency, it is ideologically driven. We're not expecting the war to end between today and tomorrow. But the most important thing is their commitment in terms of retooling the military as well as other sister agencies to combat security across the nation. That is ongoing. In terms of anti-corruption, people look at anti-corruption from the point of how much has been recovered, but it goes beyond that. It includes reforms, and these reforms are a very proactive way of ensuring that loopholes, leakages are blocked. And Mr. President has done that with the National Assembly. If there are a lot of acts today, new acts, for instance, the Deep Offshore Act that was passed by National Assembly, that's supposed to put more revenue into the coffers of government. This is something that ought to have been done in the last 20 years, but was not done. So in terms of anti-corruption, Mr. President has brought a lot of policies to bear on the nation in such a way that leakages, the free access to resources that are frittered away are taken care of.
All right. Dr. Abu Hamisu, thanks a lot. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Once again, let's bring in the Honorable Minister of Transportation. Honorable Minister, I would like you to give us the benefit of your experience. You were governor for 8 years, and so you have hands-on experience in terms of governance. Running the country, of course, is a different ball game. It's possible, therefore, to use as illustrations the decisions, the steps and the measures and accomplishments to assess or indeed define, otherwise describe, the leadership style of President Buhari that has yielded the gains that you were talking about. So what kind of a leader is President Buhari?
The one that confuses the whole country, including me, is the fact that he doesn't talk. And, when the country says he doesn't address us, I say, what about us? I tell people, I say, if you spend more than 3-5, unless the president wants to engage you in a meeting that requires everybody to make contributions and all that, if it's you just coming to ask for approvals, 3 minutes you should be leaving the president's office. You present what you want, convince the president, he wants to approve. If he's convinced, I approve. What next? The rest will be talking stories. And president doesn't have time for those kind of stories. Said maybe at the end, at the close of work, you can meet him at home. He's a good listener, so he'll just listen to you. Maybe that's what confuses a lot of people. And I said, including me, because I've served in government in where even after we have finished with the file, we sit down and chat and tell gist. He doesn't have enough time for gisting. If you want to gist, maybe after work, and you're gisting, he will listen. Then you finish your gisting, he will see you off. But what kind of leader has he shown me to? Let me give you an example. While battling with COVID, I got a memo from the president directing me to brief him about Ibadan to Kano and Port Harcourt, Bonny to Maiduguri. I said, COVID, minister to brief Mr. President. I then briefed Mr. President in writing. And last week I had an order, return to site. I'm confused. I have a meeting from here and I'm going straight to a meeting with the Chinese. How do we return to site? You must go to NCDC and tell us how to safely return to site without the spread of COVID. Because what the president means by that instruction is that whether you like it or not, COVID seems to have come to stay. If we continue to say we are waiting for COVID, we may be waiting for COVID until 2023. That's the point he's making in asking me to return to site. And he didn't say just return to site. He said to Minister of Finance, release the money I asked to release to Amechi, and they've released $218 million. You get the point? Yes, the country is broke, but because of his emphasis on infrastructure, he has said, release money to the Minister for Transport. Minister for Transport, go back to site. He didn't end there. He said, brief me in September what you have done between now and September. How many?
COVID-19 is not a pretext.
Exactly. So what he's saying is, look, you're a minister. That's why I appointed you. You must be able to fashion out ways you can work in the midst of this COVID. One reason. Second reason is, if we don't work, we all die of hunger. So you must fashion out a way that you can employ people to come and do that work in a manner that will not allow the spread of COVID. So I'm going to listen to the Chinese this morning. They're coming to my office at 10. I'll listen to them. I'll listen to the Minister for Health. Then I'll approach the governor of Kaduna and the governor of Kano, and possibly the governor of Kwara, because it's going to be Oyo, Kwara, Niger, Kaduna, and FCT too. But FCT is controlled. Oh, well, Mina. We're coming from Mina to FCT. FCT to Kaduna is already in place, so it has to be Kaduna to Abuja. So I'm going to also talk to them to see, look, we're going to hire people. We're going to hire over 20 to 30,000 persons. How do we manage these persons? In fact, my initial discussion with the Chinese was, look, let's run a test of all these 12 to 20,000 persons you need. He said, fine, we run the test. When they finish running the test, they come to work. At night, do you know where they go to? So it is beyond running the test. You must do much more than running the test. So that's the kind of leader he is. I was not expecting the president to direct me, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm at home. I go to work for 2 hours, and I go back to the house. Now, what the president has done is, that's not enough. You also have to ensure that others come to work on the field and are as safe as you are. Whatever thing you're doing to be safe, increase it and ensure that construction is done. Because actually, like I told you today, we have 3 years. And to construct that railway may take us 4 years. And you know, Nigerians, if we don't finish it in 3 years, whichever government that comes will say, we started, we finished it. But that's not what the president is interested in. He's interested in making sure that there are these infrastructures. When I went to see the president and I said, look, we had a meeting and we agreed to name the stations according to the following names, the following persons. And the one we're going to build in Abuja, very big station we're going to build in Abuja, I want to name it after you. Say, stop that. Don't you ever name anything after me. I had to strike out his name. You get the point? So that's the kind of person he is. He's the kind of person, he wants the work delivered. But if I didn't tell you this now, would you have known that I didn't write a memo to the president to brief him about the Ibadan to Kano? I sat and received instruction asking me to brief the president about Ibadan to Kano. And I replied him in writing and briefed him and received instructions to say, Minister of Finance, pay him some money to start, you go and start. So, because he doesn't talk, nobody will know that. A president who talks will come to the press now, call everybody, people gather. We are going to start Ibadan to Kano, we are going to release money, and everybody will clap. But if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't have known that this conversation took place between the president and I.
A lot of people feel because, that really the president doesn't listen to the yearning, of the people, because sometimes
what makes you think so?
when issues are raised, because you say he doesn't talk much. When issues are raised, we don't see the president come up as people would expect. A lot of people had expected, okay, the president will be giving daily briefings on the COVID-19, and that is not.
What is the work?
You're telling us? You understand? Let's understand that aspect of the president.
Exactly. That is his style. His style is, what is the work of the Minister for Health?
Okay.
So me, who is not a medical doctor, will come out and tell you COVID-19 will kill 20 Nigerians. No, just answer. So when you say president should come and address you, it is what the Minister for Health has written that is addressing you on. So why not the minister who has written it address you on it? No, you call Mr. President, morning sir, come and address Nigeria on transportation. What are you Minister for Transport for? Why did he appoint you? Then he could as well do the job and address you for it.
So he's a realist.
Exactly. So if you call Mr. President, I'm ready, sir. I finished my documentation. You give it to him. He reads it over through the night. Then comes Nigerians, good morning. As your president, there will be a railway from Ibadan to Kano. Then what's my job now? You get the point. What's important to the president is convince me that this will generate employment. Convince me that this will be for the greater good of the greater majority. That's why, he and I had a battle on the cost of transportation to Kaduna. So if you increase, and I tell the governor, because the governor increases the cost of transportation to Kaduna. And I say, beyond the president argument is that the actual people who should use this thing are the poor people. So if you increase it, you are taking away money from them. And the essence of this is not only to move cargoes, it's also to assist those who can't pay house rent in Abuja to live in Kaduna and come to work. That's why there's a 6:30 train that brings you to Abuja before 7:30 or 8, so you can go to your work. So for us, the president is practical in his approach. Like you say, he's a realist. And if at the end of the day, what will make him happy is that he gets out of this office knowing that majority of Nigerians can at least say they got employed.
Okay. Let me now take you on the real. You talked about it. I know sometime in January you granted an interview and you did, explain that it might not be feasible to complete the Lagos-Ibadan at the appointed time. That was to be in April.
No, May.
In May. And that was before the COVID-19. What is the percentage of completion now, and how much time do we require?
Let me tell you, we want to surprise Nigerians. The Chinese were actually annoying me, so I invited their chairman from China. When he came here, he gave them a marching order. We were actually going to complete that rail in May. We were just at the point. They set out the press release to show that they've completed from Ibadan to Ebute Metta. So what was remaining was less than 12 kilometers from Ebute Metta to the seaport before COVID-19 came. And they wrote to me, say, can we pull out? I said, of course you have to. Because only God knows the number of persons that would have been infected. There were over 10,000 persons walking between Ibadan to Apapa. And when I say 10,000 persons, that's because the major construction was over. Right? So you needed to now complete the stations and all that. What was remaining from Ebute Metta to Ibadan was just the completion of minor things in the stations and all that. And then the communication and signaling. While from Ebute Metta to the seaport, they were now beginning to lay the tracks. And there was only one station there, which we were working on. That's the station at Apapa. That will have been completed by now. We have completed, by the way, what do you call the station? This Etape to Warri. Completed. In fact...
Do we have scheduled trains on that now?
Well, you can't run the idea. We have brought in over 35 coaches. We brought in over 10 locomotives. So we are ready to, if not for COVID, by now we would have started running Lagos to Ibadan. We have started running Etape to Warri. What our plan was there's a contract already, an existing contract from Abuja to Etape, passing through Baro and Lokoja. But while they were planning to start construction, we would have put a bus station around Itabe to convey passengers from Itabe to Abuja by road, pending when we finish the construction of Abuja to Itabe. We were that's very annoying because that's the side I come from. We were at the verge of concluding our negotiation with the Chinese for a construction of rail line from Bonny to Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt to
is it Makurdi?
No, Maiduguri. We'll pass through Makurdi. In fact, there's an extension to Weri, there's an extension to Damaturu. What we did was, instead of, we couldn't raise $11 billion to do a standard gauge from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, in which case you would have gotten to Abakaliki, you get to Oka, you get to Yola, you get to Damaturu and all that. So we came with a fresh memo to the president. Look, to raise $11 billion now won't be easy. And we don't have time to. It took us nearly 3 years to raise $5.3 billion for Ibadan to Kano. So only God knows how many years it will take us to raise $11 billion from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. Give us approval for between $5 and $3 billion to look for between $5 and $3 billion to reconstruct the old narrow gauge. How do you reconstruct it? Just remove what you have there and yank away and put new things. The difference is what? Standard gauge is at now, we're running at 120 kilometers per hour. This is 80 to 100 kilometers maximum. So what's the difference? The difference of 20 to 40 kilometers. It's better to have that rather than have nothing. So he approved. What we're able to do with a seaport in Bonny, that's why I went to Bonny, with a seaport in Bonny, a deep seaport. And I've told Nigerians, we don't have deep seaport, we don't have a seaport in Nigeria. What we have is river ports. The Apapa port is a river port, Tinkan is a river port, Port Harcourt is a river port, Onne is a river port, Warri, Calabar, they're all river ports. The first seaport in Nigeria will be the one in Lekki, which is under construction. Nigerians will remember that we started it, that the vice president went to lay the foundation stone.
Let's pause it for a while. A good place to pause for a while and take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. We'll be right back.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide. Don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our three guests here with us in the studios. Let's bring in again Malam Garbacho. Malam Garbacho, I want to return to the question of the style of President Muhammadu Buhari. 5 years. I mean, you work very closely with him. What is it that is about his style? And now we're getting pressed for time, so I want to take the privilege of also barreling the question. President Buhari, a change in 2015, there were three key areas that, of course, he mentioned. He talked about security, talked about anti-corruption, and the economy. But there are a number of analysts who would express, and indeed they have expressed, very pleasant surprise at the president's gains on the international scene in terms of diplomacy. So how does the president's style on the domestic front and the president's style on the international plane in terms of diplomacy, how does those ties, as it were, define his presidency?
If you are looking to examples of the kind of leader that President Buhari is on the international scene, I want to think of him in terms of being a Ronald Reagan, an outsider to Washington politics, coming in from California, Hollywood, and all of that. And he said, my attitude to this is that I'm going to operate like a board chairman. And I'm going to have executives working under me. I'll just supervise them, making sure that broad guidelines. So President Buhari is not a micromanager. Reagan, when he appointed his Treasury Secretary, a bright American David Stockman, wrote some recommendations to him on the economy and congratulated him on his victory. And he read it and said, that's my Treasury Secretary. So these are the kind of things that you have seen around President Muhammadu Buhari. He has identified people who can get the task done. And once he believes you can do it, you are there, doing the right things, you have it all. This is not the president who will phone you and say, well, we have Mabila contract to give. Who do we give to? He doesn't discuss contracts. And so everything that you see, they come before the council, and guidelines, very few. If it is government contract, the president wants to know how many jobs does it come to with. Who are the directors? Are they Nigerians? In fact, lately, interest is there a woman in the board? So you find that I don't think in this country we have ever had ministers who had so much freedom to do the right things.
So please, could you repeat this lately? The lately one.
Right, what is it whether there's a woman?
Yeah. Whether there's a woman on the board of directors.
Why, because a woman.
We need to understand.
It's yet another requirement. Yes, it's a requirement of his government. Jobs, how many jobs? This Amochi, you are getting this money. How many jobs? He must target the number of jobs to every money that he requests for cabinet the president to approve for him. And then, as you said, who are the directors? The full disclosure. So that it will not be said that family members or friends of president are getting jobs. Who are they? You display them. If they are not there, they can yank off your memo before the council. And of course, women, as I said, lately added that, yes. And they are talking about the role of the president on the international scene. I think that there's enormous goodwill for Nigeria all over the world. And we have squandered this all the time. Serious nations had looked to getting serious people that they can do business with in Nigeria, people who they can trust. Look at all of the things about this money that is stashed abroad and they want to bring. The first experience with the Nigerians was they returned money, stolen money, looted funds, and it was re-looted. So now as it is, we are back again, and they are now saying, okay, so this is somebody we can do business with. We are trusting in this man, believing that, yes, there are guideposts saying, show us what you will do. And the president has no problems, saying like the latest 310 or so US dollars from the United States and the Jersey Island. This project, and that's it. You know, look at what, if you're looking for specific examples of, look at the tension that was generated by the so-called issue of xenophobia in South Africa. I know that's their own territory. That thing would have put the entire continent on fire. And look at how President Buhari didn't listen to officials. He relied on his instinct on doing the right things. And he never gets it wrong. That's the thing about him. Neighbors were withdrawing ambassadors from South Africa, cutting diplomatic relations, announcing sanctions. President didn't do all of that in spite of all of the pressure from sections of officialdom. He went there. The South Africans are relatively new on the international scene, not as experienced as we are. We've been there for a longer period of time. Sat down with South Africans and agreed on they admitting that there's a problem there. And they apologized to the continent. And he got it worked out, and all of that tension just melted away. So that's the kind of president you have. Respected abroad, as they say, like prophets.
Well, still, let me just throw this in so you can explain, because I mean, we've had the benefit of interacting with you, usually when you travel with the president to summits or conferences. What kind of reception does the president get? I mean, he also has a lot of energy, quite aside from the positive interventions we saw in the Gambia, for instance, and Guinea-Bissau much more lately. What kind of reception does it get, and how has this leveraged Nigeria's diplomatic dividend?
I think there is a sense that the president is not coming with a given agenda of his own. Self-serving, I had said in one of my write-ups, and I was, of course, attacked for saying these things, because this is not a president who comes before foreign leaders, to discuss investment in the country, and he says, what is in it for my family? This president is not motivated, he's not driven by want, by things that, whether aircraft or motor car or new homes, that's not his life. And so therefore, he looks at the issues as best as they affect Nigeria. And then he puts it down, and invitations to move away from that, invitations to bring in self. No, he doesn't entertain all of that. So he looks at it from that objective point of view, and for which he just has to be respected for doing that.
Let me just add, before we bring in Dr. Amisu, again, going to gender, are we likely to see going forward in terms of any subsequent appointments? Are we likely to see the president thinking more of, gender, inclusivity? And does he really have time for leisure?
Yeah, he does have time for leisure. But let me start with your question. Issue of this is a prayer you are making, not a president. And I will join you in praying that the president. I support you. I think the president should get to more women. And in any case, do you know that all his ministers of finance had been women? Because the president is what, let me say this, I hope I don't get myself into trouble. He's more trusting of women than men. Because he has given this country all these years. All the country's money is in the hands of women. And they kept it safely.
And they're doing well.
Yes, they're doing well. So that's where he is, So that's as far as that is concerned.
Okay.
And the other issue you said.
Yes, does he really have time for leisure? What kind of leisure does he engage in?
He does. The president likes, he watches television, he watches wildlife on TV.
Does he watch NT?
He does watch NT, of course, promptly as much as he can. And of course, the president enjoys being with the little ones. He has a number of grandchildren, and he's entertained by them all the time. And he takes a walk around the house. The villa environment is vast with a lot of wildlife and all of that. He takes a walk and, in a way, exercises himself.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Malam Garba. Dr. Abu Hamisu, let's bring you in here again. I mean, we've got 5 years. President Buhari has 3 years to go. By next year, I'm sure the politicos will all be beating the drums of 2023. In your opinion, are we beginning to see the outlines of what we can refer to as a Buhari legacy? And in responding to that question, you may wish to be guided by how the president has responded to two of the key challenges that his administration has faced, quite aside from his initial agenda. One was the recession, and then the other one now a global challenge of COVID-19.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I would say there is what we can refer to as a Buhari legacy. One is fidelity to the nation and continuing with impactful programs of his past predecessors. The trend in Nigeria before the coming of President Muhammadu Buhari was any government will start a new project without having to complete the programs and projects of the past administrator or administration that was inherited. Most of the first things Mr. President did while he took over power back in 2015 was to complete most of the impactful projects of the past administration. The second thing again is if President Muhammadu Buhari believes in you or believes in a cause, it goes all the hog to ensure that that relationship is consummated. We could see that in the number of decisions he has taken after winning second term in office. Most of his trusted aides that he believed could deliver his agenda were retained. Some people find that very, very distasteful because governance back then used to be a reward for those that have invested in campaigns, those that are close to Mr. President or friends of Mr. President. This he never did. He still retained those that he believed have the capacity to drive the process. This is something new, this is something novel that we could say is Buhari style. Another thing again is Mr. President is a stoic. He's never shaken by any situation or anything. For instance, when he took over, he used to repeat it, that the first thing he requested was, Central Bank Governor, how much do we have to run our programs? And Central Bank Governor said, the money is not just there. He didn't despair. What next? What can we do? I think his attitude to governance has always been, if this is not possible, what is possible? And he has exhibited this quite a number of times. So, like the issue of the recession is still the same thing, because he wanted a situation whereby he could be able to drive his programs. So, when he realized that the money was not there, he decided to act local by saying what? How can we stop the frittering away of our little resources? And that led him to agriculture and then minerals. And today, we have non-oil sector contributing to the budget of Nigeria. We're thinking that the rate of indebtedness will be higher and government will be borrowing money to pay salaries at the point of recession. But the government was still supporting state government by lending them money to pay salaries. So Mr. President is somebody that thinks ahead. And look, the issue of the COVID, for instance. We're thinking what will be done because of the impact of COVID and the lockdown. And what did he do? Within the lockdown, he directed specific number of ministries and agencies to come together to put together way forward for Nigeria. This is highly strategic because he's not waiting for the outcome of COVID, the lockdown, the reopening of the world economy before he acts. He acts within the context of what is happening and what can be done to salvage the situation. So for me, his problem-solving attitude is something that we can refer to as Buhari style of leadership. So for me, it is something that any student of power, any student of governance that is desirous about bringing change to his people or to our people, to the nation, should imbibe the capacity to think ahead, not being weighed down by challenges. If Mr. President is to be weighed down by challenges, I think by now, God forbid, Nigeria will be like Somalia. But he has remained resolute in the face of the challenges, and it's something that is highly commendable.
Thank you for praying, God forbid, there, and we'll join you. Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, thank you. We've got quite a number of tweets here, and I think at this point, Kingsley, if you permit us, let's quickly take them.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
We have a torrent of them, so let's see the ones we can take on before time runs out on us. Cecilia Okoroma, congratulations, Mr. President, and your team. We're grateful of the successes in the agricultural sector. I get overjoyed when I go to the markets and see different well-packaged made in Nigeria rice, eggs, spices, all in abundance. Imagine if we didn't have a focused leader in this season of lockdown.
Okay, and this is gas. We are what Nigeria is. He says, okay, this Shutu. It is half full and not half empty. President Buhari's government is a positive work in progress. May Almighty God protect President Buhari and other members of the team. It can only get better.
Now, Amobala Hababs, there were times in the past when the North, Central, Northwest, Northeast were all engulfed in endless bomb explosions. Today, people can sleep with their two eyes closed. I saw the progress on Second Niger Bridge. I saw the Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge line being test run. It can only get better.
All right, and Mike Anyakwa says we can certainly say that we have many stories to tell in all strata of endeavors. But to make it short, one can say that there are a lot of positive changes in our old ways of doing things. It's no longer business as usual.
Comrade Ngala, our president is trying his best in terms of the economy, construction of roads, petroleum sector, welfare of workers, and fighting corruption. Very soon, the security challenges facing the country will be over.
Titus Monday, he has tried, but more needs to be done in creation of jobs, electricity, housing, and development of our transportation sector, especially the railways. COVID-19 pandemic has also made it mandatory to develop the health sector and encourage research in vaccines and drugs.
Ibrahim Moduaji, achievements have been recorded in the three cardinal objectives of President Buhari's administration. And these are anti-corruption, insecurity, and economic development in the last 5 years. But a lot still needs to be done, especially with regard to insecurity.
Festus Akimboiwa, President Buhari's administration has rebuilt our armed forces, contained Boko Haram, fought corruption, invested massively in infrastructure and agriculture. We now need the president to fulfill his promise of 24-hour electricity, invest in human capital development, and protect Nigerians from bandits and criminals.
Nandom Uyep tweets, I can only imagine what it takes to be the president of a great nation like Nigeria. With God on our side, I trust this administration can do more and even better than good. We won't give up on this blessed land. God bless Nigeria.
Law Alpha, 5 years of President Buhari has been very eventful and unprecedented in the annals of this nation. In the areas of fighting institutional corruption, improvement of infrastructure, and blocking of avenues through which government's revenues were brazenly stolen, as well as diversification of the economy.
Bashiru, 5 years of this administration have been a mixed bag. There are obvious gains such as stability in the petroleum product supply and significant containment of terrorism. But there are also problems that have refused to go away, such as rising poverty levels and imprudent spending.
All right, this is quite interesting. Coming from Usman Banu Kantu, a lot has been achieved despite numerous challenges. For example, in the fight against corruption, MDAs no longer bribe the National Assembly to get their budgets approved. TSA, IPPIS have blocked stealing conduits. Transparency in governance, granting autonomy to LGAs and others have also been achieved.
Oladimeji Morufu, kudos to our government. However, they need to do more on provision of drinkable water, that will be potable water. It's not the business of the federal government to provide potable water. That's the business of subnational entities. But it also talks about reduction of unemployment, healthcare system, and education.
Idris Yunusa, I salute the transportation minister and his team for doing a great work on the railway sector. Busa, busa, busa.
Okay, we have this from Ahmadu Jikan. It says 5 years have been tremendous under President Buhari in terms of infrastructure, human capital development. But despite investment in security agencies, we still need to do more in reforming our security network.
And Yakubu Abdullahi, valuable lesson that a traffic signal teachers. Every problem is like a red signal. If we wait for some time, it will turn green. I believe things will be good and great again.
Akeju Olagbaju, I agree with the minister. There has been no single rice import waiver granted for some years now. Agriculture has fared better under this administration, even with leaner resources. Achievements in rice, potatoes, and cassava, poultry products, and all that, those achievements are unparalleled. The gain is more than the pain.
And finally, this one is Liman. I commend the government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the people of Nigeria for coming this far as a nation. I urge all to continue to support laudable programs to make our country work. President Buhari alone cannot make Nigeria. We all know the extent of damage cumulatively over time. It got too bad. And that's the last tweet we got from Liman. We'd like to thank all of you
for sending in your tweets. Before we wrap up, we'll leave the Honorable Minister to give us his closing thoughts and also wrap up the program for us. But let me bring in Malam Garba Shehu. Malam Garba Shehu, one of the comments you made is that as part of the achievements of the Buhari administration, you say it is the sanitation of the moral environment. Will you take that along as part of the outline of the legacy that we are beginning to see 5 years on, or what are the other attributes?
Absolutely, yes. This famous Nigerian politician, the late MKO Abiola, used to say that when the fish is rotting, it starts smelling from the head. I think this is where you have. So people are taking their cue from the leader. And once he brooks no nonsense and he's not monkeying around with money. That itself has sent message all across. And the fact also there are consequences now for wrongdoing. In the past, you can take away from the treasury and you are too important to be confronted with the question. This is no longer the case. That's the point we're making.
All right. Let me ask the minister. As a minister, as a person, as a former governor, and an ardent supporter.
Forgetting that I was a former speaker.
And a former speaker.
That's where the right honourable comes from.
Yes,
even though it's not parliamentary system.
So I'd just like for you to tell us, if you were given another chance to go as a governor, what would you do differently arising from your contact with Mr. President?
That's a good question. I always say, when I became a minister, I came to the conclusion that before anybody becomes a governor, he needs to be a minister, he needs to be a parliamentarian at the national level, because it exposes you a lot. What would I have done differently? I would have borrowed a lot of money to do a lot of infrastructural development in the area of not just roads and rail, but also industrialization. Because you see, if you don't create jobs, you don't create market. It is a man who has money that goes to the market. It is that market that creates employment, that grows an economy. Subnationals must begin to learn how to be semi-independent. Not what we currently do now is we come to the federal government, give us our money for the month, they give you go back. And dance, 20-something, you come back again. It must go beyond that. It must also begin to create. By the time we left government, we were about between 9 and 10 billion naira per month. So we had begun to pay salaries from internally generated revenue. Don't forget that we employed about 13,200 teachers. So it has ballooned our salary. When we came, the salary was about 2.5 billion. But we had to pay increases in salary wages. We had to employ more persons. Like I said, the total requirement of teachers in Rivers State was about 90,000. So we said, let's start. So we started with 13,200 teachers, and we hired them. So if I had been Buhari's minister before becoming governor, that's what I would have done differently. I would have made sure that more on infrastructure, more industrialization. We have similar style. I don't bother my commissioners. Just follow the due process and get the contracts awarded. All we do is when we come to cabinet, we approve if you have met the due process requirements. I don't micromanage anybody. I don't micromanage MPA. I don't know what's happening in the MASA. I don't know what's happening in Shippers Council, unless as it concerns the job of the minister. Everything must end at the level of the board. Because the reason why you are appointed is that you have expertise in running what you're running. And we are doing well in that sector, maritime sector. We are doing well in the railway sector. I pray fervently that we're able to raise money to complete or to start the Bonny Port Harcourt Maiduguri rail line. That's quite strategic.
All right. On that note, we'd like to thank all our guests who've been with us this morning. Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, usually our guest, the public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for your contribution to our conversation this morning.
Thank you, sir.
We also would like to appreciate Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Thank you very much for some of the revelations you gave to us about the President this morning.
Not put me into trouble.
We also would like to thank the Honorable Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Chibuike Amechi. He was Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly for 8 years. He was Governor of Rivers State also for 8 years, less a few months, while he was in exile trying to sort out the legal issues. Honorable Minister, I would like to thank you for being part of our conversation this morning and for the insights you provided. All right, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. As we indicated, this is just the first part of our conversation on 5 years of the Buhari presidency. We'll see you on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock. Until then, be safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Claire Dilabo Abdul Razak. Don't forget you can watch a repeat broadcast of this edition later today at 5 minutes past 5 on NT News 24. From all of us here, bye-bye.
Love meets poetry, and stories meet drama. Your joy, laughter, smiles and giggles will be all that matter. Let's gather here. Showbuzz. Live life happy.
NTE Sports 24, where sports thrive.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Deepak Chopra once said, to make the right choices in life, you have to get in touch with your soul.
And to do this, Mila, you need to experience solitude, which most people are afraid of.
Indeed, AK, because in the silence you hear the truth and know the solutions.
Regardless of how trying times might be, Mila, I'll simply recommend a smile.
Certainly, AK. For those who need your smile, most of those don't have it.
So share it, and it will surely come back to you.
It's on that note, we welcome you to Click Light, your popular entertainment rendezvous. I'm Butu Miller.
And I am Kevin Williams. Let's check out what's on the lineup for today.
You know, we need to learn to use our masks, wash our hands.
Last night, last second, like last hour, Stuck With You by Ariana Grande submits 60,000 units out of nowhere.
AK, interesting lineup it is, yeah?
I know, right?
So guys, buckle up. The entertainment news is next.
The lockdown has been a fortune of different tales. While there are those who are making it and cashing out big time, there are those who are literally always praying and hoping that those cashing out will let some of the pennies trickle to them. This you will see especially on social media, as followers of big-time celebrities are literally always in the comment section, not to hype or support the acts of their favorite celebrities, but rather to drop account names and details, all in a bid to get on a lot. Well, to keep their fans on their toes, celebrities have decided to answer the call of giveaways, which has been more often these days. Top on the list are movie stars, music stars, and even comedians. As stands, two things Nigerian fans care about now are giveaways and data to keep up with them.
Okay, now, if money go bless you,
The credibility of Billboard charts, the U.S. music industry standard record chart, may be in question following a couple of complaints from music acts of being allegedly cheated out of their rightful ranking. One of such is 24-year-old American rapper known as Tekashi 6ix9ine, as he recently took to Instagram to rant about his newly released song titled Cuba being placed on the number 3 spot of the Billboard 100 charts, especially after attracting over 186 million views on YouTube.
If Billboard gets paid for number ones, somehow manipulate the charts, I want the whole world to see this, because what I'm about to show you is
The artist picked holes in Billboard awarding number 1 spots to Stuck With You, a single by Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber, barely 24 hours after it was on the number 5 spot.
Last night, last second, like last hour, Stuck With You by Ariana Grande submits 60,000 units out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere. This is the forecast they sent every label. It puts Ariana Grande was Stuck With You at 43.7, which jumps 12 points. They went from being 5th place to 1st place out of nowhere, right?
Although Billboard has debunked Tekashi's allegations with a detailed article breaking down parameters for their rankings. However, there are reports that Tekashi isn't the first artist to raise dust about their rankings in the past. No sits, no hugs, no group dancing. This is the reality celebrants and even event planners will have to face from now on.
That's why my heart is a beat like do. Cause now you are choose I sing for you.
Travel back in time, perhaps celebrating a baby shower would have looked more like this. But in year 2020, oh no, if it must, then you have to get creative in order to uphold the social distancing rule.
I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, okay, acting stupid.
And that's it on entertainment news. You could follow us on Twitter at ClickLight on NTA.
Movie, told that boy, gotta keep it low, leave the room key. I done bled down the block, bitch, I'm Tunchi. I'm moody.
Well, AK, this gist about the buying your way to be top in Billboard is quite painful, you know. If it's true.
Yeah, because those are just allegations.
Yeah, allegations. Yeah.
And Billboard actually replied to his allegations, saying that they explained everything
bit by bit, right?
Yeah, what it's all about. So
because some artists are really going to get angry because all their work in the studio and everything just going down the drain because someone thinks he has enough money to buy his way to the top. It's actually not cool.
That would be totally unfair, but still, we can't prove that until proven.
Yes, actually. Well, talking about someone here he's working his way up, isn't it?
Okay, right. Let's hear. Who could that be?
He's a native of Obafemi Owode local government in Ogun State. James Kinde, popularly called Proof, is a seasoned music producer, a keyboardist and Afro-pop artist who does new age music and creating enthusiasm and hope for the common man. Well, his new video titled Stay Safe is indeed proof to this.
Sit and G's together, like a family live together, eat and drink together. For me, it came to me as the time when I was supposed to be handling an important project, and suddenly everything went locked down everywhere, churches, mosques, business places, and so we had to live with it. And what came to mind was, after this pandemic goes, what next? So I thought to reach out to friends and family just to know how they are doing.
See, I just want to know how you feel. Can you tell me just how you did? I want to see your face once again. So please just tell me that walk away.
In the early 80s, me, the great Soji Israel, and Agbola Shadari, the great guitarist, were all together as drummers in Kano. Doing well. I got very inspired by Agbola, who left the drums and started learning the guitar in the early 80s. And between 83 and 84, I had to start learning the organ. After which I learned the keyboard proper, and then that was about when I started this whole thing. And some years later, I found myself, in Jos at Oasis of Love Church, where I started doing some productions too at Panam Music World. I remember I handled some songs for usually then Jude Okoye, the elder brother of P Square, would go to the studio to change some songs into Hausa songs, and I did some of the recordings for him.
Life is sweet, now I know. It's hard to lose people you know. So try to take control just by taking it slow. Stay safe under your roof. Please adhere to the rules. Keep the faith. Try to stay cool. Why?
My advice to everyone is, let's take this thing seriously. Some people still don't believe that this COVID-19 exists, and it's a shame. We need to learn to use our masks, wash our hands, keep our surroundings clean, use your sanitizers, stay home. If you have no business going out, stay home. Let's try to keep ourselves, because at the end, we can raise our hands and say, yes, I made it. This thing is real. Stay safe.
I hope you wash your hands, use your face mask, sanitize, clean your arms, cover your mouth when you cough, no handshakes, stay safe.
I hope you've learned to keep social distance. See, I just want to know how you feel. Can you tell me just how you did? I want to see your face once again. So please just tell me that you are great.
An interesting video there. Let's take a quick break. When we return, more interesting stories.
The Make the News will deliver it to you on the platter with a difference.
The world of arts and entertainment, an endless path to opportunities.
From the motion pictures, music, fashion, comedy, visual arts, personality, and lifestyle.
Experience the glitz and glamour. A total package on the program where we celebrate creativity and style.
Mr. David, how are you?
I'm fine.
How have you been? Mila, meet Mr. David.
How you doing, Will?
I'm alright, and you?
I'm fine.
What are you guys doing?
Well, we're
just
chilling.
Let's have a seat while let's talk about the things that are going on right now.
Okay, after you. So, Mr. David, how are you coping with business, especially during the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, Mr. Miller, I won't lie to you. It's quite very poor. The good thing is that we are alive.
I could imagine that.
The usual nightlife has stopped completely. So basically, we're just left with takeout, and
It was like a melting pot for fashion designers, food lovers, and generally fun lovers right here. And one wonders, with the change that we are faced with, how do you have like a plan B to actually sustain that essence of what?
Yeah, because but it will mean that as the designers are coming right now, they have other works to do. Maybe if you're doing a costume for a shirt, probably want to put like what do you call it, a pocket square, and then probably the face mask to go with it. Like you see some governors wearing these days. Some do the patch with the meal, and then they wear it with the face mask. I mean, it's now fashion.
But how are you going to deal with the social distancing rule?
The good thing about Go Cafe is spaced enough.
Okay.
Look at how we're stood now.
Okay.
We're not really close to each other. And yet, we are observing the social distance. So look around, the same way the chairs are being set. So it's going to be restricted. Not for everybody this time around like it used to be before. Okay. It's going to probably be restricted by invitation.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
How you doing? I understand that you guys are fashion designers.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So, it's no news that business has been crashing because of the coronavirus pandemic, right?
Badly.
Yeah. So, if I may ask, as a fashion designer, how are you incorporating your designs into the fashion business?
As fashion designers, try to think outside the box and bring in some new trends that that doesn't kick against the government policies about coronavirus. So we still stay doing what we are doing, but yet because of the coronavirus, we just improvise. The idea of face mask wearing, I think we put in creativity into it. Like you see what I'm wearing now. I have a touch of this and I have my face mask on, so it's fashion. Like a head with a wide rim, which goes like a meter. That automatically creates social distancing with the head.
I'm feeling your idea already.
So much has happened and is still happening ever since the discovery of the coronavirus disease.
True.
A lot of doctors, trained and untrained, are coming up with their own ideas on how they think the virus can be contained.
Very true. Well, Ike, the most entertaining part of this was our correspondent, Mumso Damien, giving on a report on the meat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's see.
A little of pepper mixed with garlic and ginger, a steamed broth with spices and herbs. Or is it the use of very hot water with salt to bathe? Drink lemon with bicarbonate of soda. Or take a little of alcohol, and the list can go on and on. But these are all recommendations for the possible prevention and cure of coronavirus.
Chest physiotherapy.
Lemon and ginger tea.
The novel coronavirus will surely count in the history of creation of mankind as a common enemy, so fierce, deadly, scary and threatening that the world has grappled with in unison. That name, I must say, sent chills down the spine of every human, as no one wants to contract it.
Coronavirus!
Everyone is taking precautionary measures to stay safe. Something good is also coming out of this whole pandemic, especially here in Nigeria. Discoveries:
automatically controlled mechanical ventilator for use for COVID-19 patients. We also worked on repairing ventilators.
This is the manual ventilator which pumps air in and out inside the lungs of human.
There are already so many myths around the virus, trending on the social media and being shared amongst family and friends, of course out of concern for each other. But then, how effective are all these recommended cures and preventive measures?
This corona, may we kill at one time. Oh yeah, take your lime, collect lime. I know say for Africa you get some. You want add small honey. Add honey small. Add turmeric. Washiri. Give them small. Make it color and well. You go add your garlic and ginger. You go then add tea bag. And you go add water. Now you be that. Stay safe for my people. I'm trying to give you advice.
Well, that is it. Everyone is trying to get a solution for a very pressing issue at hand.
There are no proven studies to show that these things mitigate against COVID-19. The proven prevention modalities are the ones that have been, in the public domain. Social distancing, washing of hands, avoidance of crowd and staying at home and all that.
So garlic, ginger, lemon, or whatever fruit or spice recommended may not be scientifically proven to be effective in treating or preventing COVID-19.
You can consume them in moderate quantity for other health benefits. But what is important is that it is not known to prevent COVID-19. The tendency is that people will consume large quantity of these things and these mixtures. Some of them have very high acidic content, which can increase the total body acidity and worsen a pre-existing condition, or cause harm to the liver or the kidneys.
While the scientific world is bent on discovering what will have the efficacy to address coronavirus, it is advised that people should be cautious of unverified claims on concoctions and combinations that will deal with the dreaded virus that has brought the entire world to a halt.
Fresh out of the viral success of her collaboration with Ladiko on the duet Know You, Simi is back with an equally infectious track celebrating the announcement of her pregnancy.
Titled Do.
Yeah.
The song has not only melted hearts but has inspired a trending social media challenge. Catchy? Let's get it.
First let me say to you, I cannot wait to see you. You are the treasure I've been waiting for.
Simi's latest song, Duduke, is not only her first official single for the year, it's also a heartwarming confirmation of her recent announcement that she and her husband, Adekunle Gold, are expecting their first child together.
That's why my heart it a beat like Duduke, Duduke. Cause now you are true, so I am familiar.
Raking over 3 million views, the song and its video have been a huge hit with audiences. No surprise then that fans latched onto a viral video dubbed the Duduke Challenge. The singer initiated the challenge herself in a video she shared on her social media. In the video, Simi is seen rocking her baby bump as she pulls off some playful dance moves. She encouraged fans to remake their own version of the choreographed steps with real bellies or a fake baby bump made from a towel.
Shabby Baby, now you are go pick up. Only for you it be like. I sing for you, my baby.
Whether there were props or not, fans joined the challenge with cute and funny videos, some featuring several high-profile personalities. A most memorable entry came from comedian Craze Clown, who showed off a real belly of his own.
It's a permanent place for you. That's why my heart it beat like do.
The catchy song is dedicated to her child, as she sings passionately about her love for the little one and how she can't wait to meet him or her. This beautiful message really resonated with fans, as evidenced by its viral impact.
Oh, you know, say every day I dey pray for you. Hey. In my heart there's a permanent place for you. That's why my heart today beat like do.
Based on this and success of her recent collaboration with Ladipo, it truly is the season of Simi.
You're really feeling that song, you know.
You know, I think the challenge really made it popular, but the song on its own is a beautiful piece.
Yeah, it
the idea
is.
behind it, the reason for it.
Her love for a baby. It's cool, you know. I like that.
Looking at this beauty here.
Why can't you just see bikes and just let them be?
I don't know, seriously. Can I touch?
No, you can't. No, they said don't touch surfaces.
Alright, but you can never go wrong with a power bike.
I guess we need to get a sanitizer and clean it.
Alright, okay, we'll do that. It's been fun on this week's episode of the program. Until we come your way next week, follow us on our Twitter handle at ClickLights on NTA.
And also watch us on DSTV 419 and Butu Miller.
I am Kemley Williams.
Wipe it down. Wipe.
I think we want you. My body the shake. Booty no be fake. You want to see us set inside the highway store. Come and take the cake. You want it. You get the hair, the boy, you know the mouth.
Don't start waiting, you know go finish. Don't start waiting, you know go finish.
How you do it, when you do it, the way you do it, and the way you do it. How you do it, when you do it, the way you do it, and the way you do it. Oh, you make me fall in love. My body they shake. Shake it past the head, I really want you to.
That matter make you lose control.
My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. Corona, no big pass us. We go fight time, we go win. As long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go in. Corona, na the virus, we dey worry human being. E no get leg go, but e dey waka from person to person. But we fit beat time, we fit stop time if we maintain good hygiene and practice social distancing. We go in. No shaking hands with your neighbor. Blow them a kiss from afar. Use soap and water to wage war. Let's show this thing who we are. We are special, we're courageous, we are awesome human beings. We dey super, we get power, we can conquer anything. If we hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love each other, we go we know. If it be like say you know well, like it's something they do you. And you feel say, you believe say, you get to see they do you. And your body no researchy, like it's something they do you. No let panic finish you, you go win all. Self-isolate for the sake of all the people that you love. Don't go around spreading rumors, cause fake news won't help anyone. You are special, you're courageous, you're a caged human being. You too much, oh, you get power, you can conquer anything. Only if you hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love one another, we go, we know. My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. COVID-19, no big pass, we go fight and we go win.